It's a typical winter day in Toronto. But in this studio, you feel more like you're in some other part of the world. The room is filled with a foreign language. The TV screen flickers with images from his next documentary. Mike Sheerin is a documentary filmmaker. Within the next few months, these pictures will be transformed into a feature-length film. Find out how to bring your own documentary to the big screen in today's episode of Making It.
When I started at Ryerson, I wanted to become the next Ernest Hemingway. I wanted to be the greatest newspaper writer, then author. And then I took a television class. I thought, oh my God, with pictures you can actually do so much more. When I finished with Ryerson, a friend of mine and I pitched a documentary to CBC News World, and we did that through a teacher at Ryerson. He was the executive producer.
Romeo X-ray, clear takeoff.
The Avro was a very ahead of its time jet airplane that Canadian industry was developing, but the government squashed the program. And it has since sort of become the greatest plane that never was. These people heard that there were models of the plane that were fired into Lake Ontario, and they wanted to find them. So I thought, wow, what a quirky doc. And they bought it. And so we were less than a year out of Ryerson, and we had this documentary, hour-long documentary that we're making for Newsworld. So we were two relatively young guys making this documentary. We had no idea what we were doing. We knew we wanted to do it, but we didn't know how to do it. You don't know what you don't know when you are fresh out of school. You might be very talented, you might be very keen, you might have a good sense of the business, and you might have a good sense of what makes a good story, but you still don't know a heck of a lot. And broadcasters know that. So if you come to them with a fantastic idea, they may love the idea and they may like you, but you don't have a track record and you don't have the ability necessarily to make an hour-long documentary.
Can you get my attention? Can you tell me what the main characters are, why I'm going to be interested in them, what the story arc is going to be. Sometimes just flipping the story around and telling it from a different perspective. There are many, many stories out there, and why would I choose you over somebody else?
For every 10 ideas you come up with, 9 of them are going to get rejected. It's not, and it has very little to do with the quality of the idea, because it is a business in the end.
Way back at the beginning, when you're in the early stages of developing your shooting script and beginning to cost things out, it is entirely possible that you have elements in that documentary that are going to cost you too much. You want aerials, you want a helicopter, you want a Tyler mount. Well, my goodness, all of a sudden you're spending, $30,000.
If you want to make a documentary for little or no money, you can easily do it. The biggest expense is generally crew. Because you're paying a lot of money for the cameraman, you're paying a lot of money for the camera and the audio guy. The Afghanistan documentary that I made, I filmed it by myself, no audio guy, no camera guy, with a Z1U camera. And there are some situations where that is not only advantageous, it's the only way you're going to get your story. There is a tendency, and photojournalists from Vietnam wrote a lot about this, that if you live your life through the viewfinder, you are at a greater risk of being injured or killed because you're blocking out the world around you. You're living your life through that scene. And there's a guy that's approaching you and you have no idea who that person is, and the troops that are there that you're filming are taking it very seriously, but you're sort of nonchalantly walking up to the person because you want to get a close-up. There's one scene where we're doing a vehicle checkpoint and the dog sniffed explosives on the truck. So the 2 engineers went up to inspect the truck, and I walked right up to the truck and I put my camera in the under the hood as they're doing it. Now these guys are doing it not because it's an exercise, they're doing it because it's a real threat that there's a bomb in there. And it wasn't until I got home and I was editing it where I thought, what the hell was I doing? This job is particularly hard on relationships, and it's particularly hard on family life. I travel 3.5 months of the year and got a 1-year-old son at home. I missed his first birthday. I've missed his first steps. And you never get used to that. I used to love traveling, and what I realized just on my last trip that I no longer love it. I hate it. I would rather be at home with my family.
It's a passion for their subject and for their way of telling a story. Because it takes you time, you have to live with it for a long time. You're very often not being paid very well, if you're being paid at all in some cases. So people are driven by, I think, a creative passion.
If you are interested in it, then you got to believe in your own sense of story cultivation and follow that curiosity.